Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Friday. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, as we are loaded up. Plenty to parse through. Got to hear from and meet the Nebraska coordinators today, Marcus Satterfield and Mr. Tony. Defensive coordinator Tony White. Numbers to get involved with us today on Hail Varsity Radio. Can dial up at 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Can watch the show. Different ways to do it. The Hail Varsity YouTube channel is alive and well and can chime in on that. Can also watch via Twitter. A couple of different ways. The Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle at HVarsity Radio. Give that a follow. ESPN Lincoln. Give that a follow on Twitter and on Facebook with ESPN Lincoln. So on the program, we'll spend time with Jacob Padilla from HailVarsity.com and magazine. His thoughts as we move into a pretty heavy basketball weekend in the prep circuit, as well as Nebraska at Minnesota. Get his takeaways from Nebraska football's two coordinators and their press conference. In hour two, we'll catch up with the pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports, the professors Bill Doleman, Billy D in 1 hour, and then Brady Oltmans from Hail Varsity also to jump in and talk some Nebraska football with us. Elijah, you fired up? You good to go? It's Friday. Been an odd week with just our schedule, and we're back into a new year and back with some buzzwords that Nebraska fans love to hear. More importantly, they'll love to see come spring football and fall, but the right notes were hit by both coordinators.
Yeah, how could I not be fired up today, Schmitty? We got the huddle and the fullback coming back to Nebraska's offense. I mean, I had people text from people that I know, they're not even huge Husker football fans, at least in recent years, and they're texting me, the fullback's coming back, and I go, yeah, baby, it's coming back. This is not just a football nerd type thing. This is kind of like everyone saying, oh, the fullback's coming back. Maybe Nebraska might be coming back.
No, you have a fullback. That means you're a tough football team. Fair to say. You look at some of the more physical offenses in college football, or how the world lives in the Big Ten. Not everybody uses a fullback, but we will get into a fullback contest with one Bill Doleman in 1 hour. We'll go around the horn, and the first person that can't name a fullback is going to lose the contest.
It might be me. It might be me. You guys have a deeper list of fullbacks in your head. Yeah. I mean, whenever I was getting into football in the mid 2000s, that's when the fullback was going away. So I know a few, and I'm going to save all my answers for next hour so I don't get bounced from this competition quickly. But I'm a little worried.
All right. You're okay. No, it's pretty good. We'll hear from Coach Satterfield and Coach White here in a moment, so you can put your ears to what we're talking about with Nebraska and their identity, what they want to be. But there are just things that are said that really excite Nebraska football fans, and fullback and tight ends and run the ball are just a few of those words that Nebraska fans are excited about. Let me ask this, and right now somewhere, either he's traveling or somewhere in Omaha, our old boy Joel Makovica has a prideful tear running down a cheek, or our friend Tom Rathman right now is fist pumping, or Corey Schlesinger's staring at a wall of busted face masks and nodding appropriately, like Robert Redford in the Jeremiah Johnson gif that lives on forever in Twitter. But No, it's a good thing. And I thought what Coach Satterfield talked about when he emphasized the huddle, it sounds huddle, fullback, right? Who cares? Well, Nebraskans care. And his point of why he loves the huddle, why he likes Stone Age football, is because of what it breeds. And it breeds communication, it breeds leadership, it breeds moments in time that you can kind of point back to of where success was had. And he went into it a little bit, we'll hear in a moment, huddle-wise, and he touched on Joe Montana. And one of the funniest things Joe Montana ever said, if you hear from some of his former teammates, is that final 2-minute drive against the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl. Points were tough to come by. John Taylor on a slant route to win it at the end. And it was a lot of checkdowns to former Husker fullback Roger Craig and, of course, Tom Rathman, right? That Nebraska backfield we smile and think about a lot. But in the huddle, it's tense. There's Hall of Famers all over that 49ers team. And you have Joe Montana kind of pointing. The game was in Tampa. It's like, you're driving your life, right, if you're Joe Montana. You've already won a Super Bowl, but you're going for another. And he points, hey, look, there's John Candy. John Candy, not guys, let's rally the troops, let's blow. I mean, no, it was just a moment of just levity where Joe Montana's like, oh, yeah, there's John Candy in the front row. Look, he's out here to watch us go win this ball game, and it kind of loosened things up. So let's spend a minute here with Marcus Satterfield, and let's just get right to the red meat here. Cut 3, the offense. The offense Nebraskans will see. The offense Nebraskans will cheer. And the offense Nebraskans really appreciate. It's not option, but it is physical. This is Coach Satterfield on what type of offense Nebraska will employ moving forward under the rule era.
We're going to be a pro-style offense. Like, we actually get in a huddle, which is kind of taboo these days. Like, we're going to get in a huddle and call football plays, and we're going to use tight ends, and we're going to use a fullback, and we're going to run the football. We understand to be successful in the Big Ten, you've got to be able to run the football because you're going to play late in the season in some interesting weather games, and you can't just throw the ball, all over the field. So I see that, we're starting from the standpoint of just being the physicality and playing good, clean football, and I think that, we're off to a good start with our recruiting.
That was Coach Satterfield touching on the pro-style offense, the fullbacks, the offense, and just what Nebraskans will see on the field. The offense and the Big Ten, a little more from Coach Satterfield and how his offense will fit in the league. And that's one thing that Coach Rule's talked about, the times he's been in front of the media with how do you win in the Big Ten? You win by taking care of the football, holding on to the football, by stopping the run and running the football. More from Satterfield on that offense that fit in the Big Ten.
I mean, I think it's perfect, to be honest with you, just from a standpoint of, like, we are a little bit old school. Like, we're going to run the football. Like, everything's going to be, start with winning the line of scrimmage and running the ball. All the different throws and play actions and stuff come off of running the football. So I think in order to win in this league, you got to be tough, you got to be blue collar, and you got to run the football, and you got to win the line of scrimmage, and that's where our offense starts. I look at the Big Ten as a blue collar, tough league, full of tough guys, playing tough games. It seems like every game's a 1 or 2 score game every single Saturday, whether you're at home or whether you're away. So I think that's the way you got to play, and I think that's a recipe for, when you ultimately want to get to where we're going to be winning championships, you've got to play that style. I mean, very few people have won, national championships doing it the other way.
So this is how it gets done and gets down for the Nebraska offense. Again, this is what we're hearing. This is what you're going to see moving forward, and I think you're all right with it if you're a Nebraska fan, assuming it works. I don't think you care how wins come as long as they happen. And Elijah, as you look at Nebraska's roster right now, is there a fullback on the roster?
No. There could be some guys that I think realistically you could flex over from the tight end spot. A guy we talked about yesterday.
So the H-back, right?
A guy,
Wychecks of the world.
Yeah, we talked yesterday about Nate Borkacher. He's a guy that I think would probably fit pretty well moving back into a tight end / fullback, H-back type role. And that's maybe what Satterfield's referring to more, or maybe there's roster changes coming with guys in this roster saying, you know what, you're a tight end right now. We think maybe A.J. Rollins is a guy that maybe could move over to the fullback spot. He's pretty athletic out of the backfield. It'd be a change of pace type fullback. That's what we're seeing with fullbacks, especially in the pro styles he's talking about. When you look at guys like Kyle Juszczyk with the 49ers, that's a guy that can go be athletic out of the backfield and go catch passes. And guess what? He loves blocking too. Or, even you look at the 49ers as well. They move Kittle back into the backfield occasionally too and let him operate as a fullback. And I think maybe that's what he's referring to when he's talking about a pro style utilizing the fullback. Obviously, the fullback's going to block, but I wonder what the modern fullback looks like in Marcus Satterfield's mind, how he wants to utilize him in this offense, because it's not going to look like the 90s. It could be closer than an offense that doesn't have a fullback. But I think with the way football's moving, you need a fullback. If you're going to put him back there, he's got to be more than just a blocker, though his primary purpose may be blocking.
No, it's absolutely that H-back role. And let's do the old checklist for a fullback. What characteristics accompany a fullback? Well, he probably drives a truck, four-wheel drive. There's probably a cope or skull, right?
Yeah.
Bush light, maybe butt heavy.
I say butt heavy. He's a butt heavy kind of guy.
Butt heavy.
Your offensive linemen are your bush light individuals, in my humble opinion. The fullback's the butt heavy guy.
Okay. There is hunting gear in said vehicle. And Janovich is just thought bubbling right now. You probably own some camouflage to go along with said hunting gear. And I'm not like mocking or knocking. I'm saying this is what your fullback is. Corey Schlesinger was a demolition derby guy. Okay. They probably wrestled and made a few people cry in their day. They moonlighted as linebacker on defense on their high school football team. And they probably love or are good at long days and hard days in a rural setting. There's a lot of folks to choose from within the state of Nebraska that can come in and get that fullback job done for you. More on the offensive mindset here from Satterfield.
Well, when I think of Nebraska, I think of hard work, blue collar, chip on their shoulder, Midwest, tough kids. And, a coach we talked to that used to coach here gave us some great advice, like, build your line of scrimmage with Nebraska kids and they'll die for Nebraska. And that's what I've adopted in my mindset, and that's what I think that is going to be a good recipe for us to have success on offense.
So let's hear about the Huddle Crusade. Elijah, you've been in a lot of huddles, and you've seen football shift to the cue cards, the hand signals, the one word, the fake or the clap, snap, and it's okay to go throwback. It's okay to have a huddle. It's okay to burn some clock and keep hammering away.
Well, I'll also say
he's really adamant about the need, the need for a huddle in football.
Well, I'll also say I think there is also not necessarily a need, but there's a useful time and place for going tempo as well. And
Sure.
I like if his mentality is to go huddle every single play, I don't mind it. I prefer going huddle every single play as opposed to going hurry up every single play. And I say that as a guy who, back in high school, we ran hurry up. We ran no huddle my senior year. We had the wristbands. We all looked over the sideline. It was a slick system. Worked well against a high school defense, but you look at the college level, there's a time and place for tempo in the college game. You know what? If you picked up 4 yards with a rushing play on 1st and 10, you don't need to hustle up to the line and go tempo for 2nd and 6. I mean, the amount of personnel you're probably changing in that situation is more important than getting the defense off guard. But then there's we just picked up a 40-yard chunk run play. Let's get up to the line of scrimmage. Let's run a play quickly and catch this defense on their heels. That's what I'm saying when there's a time and a place for tempo. But I like what Satterfield's saying about wanting to get back to the huddle and getting back to the roots of football.
Here is Satterfield on that Huddle Crusade.
You don't really want to go down this path, I don't think, but I'm on a crusade about the huddle. Like, the huddle is the heart and soul of football. You cannot teach the leadership moments. You can't script the leadership moments that happen in a huddle. If you talk to any football player that played in a huddle, they're always going to talk about funny things that happen in the huddle. This guy was puking in the huddle. This guy ripped my what in the huddle. This guy, Joe Montana goes in the huddle and says, we're getting ready to go down 75 yards and win this game. So there's all these moments that happen in a huddle. And then I think, how do you ask your quarterback to be a leader if he never talks? Today's football has become, clapping my hands for a snap count, and the coach is signaling plays on cue cards. And then they complain about the quarterback not being a vocal leader. Well, when does he have a chance to lead? And I think in a huddle and the way that we play football, it gives our quarterbacks, a chance to be a vocal leader on our offense.
Always got to have that why, right? And it's very fair. This is why he loves the huddle. Does it translate to wins in the Big Ten with this new staff saying all the right things? They got a spring to get some work done and beyond. They've done it on the recruiting trail. Jacob Padilla is next. Thanks for spending time a Friday here with you on Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Hail Varsity, presented by Currency. Schmidt and Elijah Herbel. We say hi to Jacob Padilla. He is still at Memorial Stadium on the 6th floor. Good Husker backdrop for him at Jacob Padilla _ on Twitter. Jacob, how's Friday treating you? Thanks for the time.
Going pretty well. Got a 2-for-1 down here in Lincoln today. Heard from Fred Hoiberg and St. Briso in the morning, and followed it up with the 2 new football coordinators. So a lot happening today.
Yeah, we will get into Fred and Nebraska tomorrow. Also the prep weekend here in a little bit. But get your takeaways from Coach Satterfield first, and then a thought on Coach White, as it's been a talking point here since the hire, that 3-3-5 defense. We've just fawned over fullbacks, tight ends in the huddle the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, I just filed the fullback story. I figured one of us has to grab it, so I'll jump on that one. That and the huddle portion of it too. Apparently, Satterfield is on a personal crusade to bring back the huddle in football. So I wrote a little bit about that. That certainly stood up. Probably the thing from him that jumped out to me most was listening to him talk about Donovan Raiola and how he was kind of the one that's like, all right, hey, after spending 30 minutes with him, it's like, we need to keep this guy. Just loved everything about him and the way he operated as a coach. Talked to Matt Rule about, hey, we got to make a decision here, and I think this should be the guy. So I know that was one of Rule's early decisions that certainly raised some eyebrows, choosing to retain Raiola, but certainly has a fan in his corner in Marcus Satterfield, who is his offensive coordinator now.
Jacob, before we dive too into the nuts and bolts of what Satterfield said today, and that was a good take on Raiola, not discrediting you there at all, I just want to get your take. Your favorite fullback of all time is who?
It's probably have to go with Janovich, because he was the only one that I've covered since they went away after that.
Like he's an endangered
I'll go with
species.
that one.
Well, we're going to go out on a limb and say we're going to go Jano. We love Jano. He was awesome. And I think Les Miles' kid was the last fullback recruited.
Yeah, that didn't work out.
No. Jacob.
Ben Miles, I believe, correct? Yeah.
Ben, thank you. I was grasping for the kid's first name, and he transferred down to A&M, I think. And, yeah, so Mike Riley at least brought a fullback as part of a recruiting class. And, no, it'll be good. And we're spitballing. I want to get your take, too. And Elijah had a good thought last segment with some fullback options for Nebraska, just because you don't have a recruited fullback in the running back room. Not that you can't turn guys into that, but if we're thinking out loud here about some of the H-backs or tight ends in that room, who are a couple of guys you think can transition and be that lead blocker for some of Nebraska's running game?
That's a good question. Be curious to see we haven't seen a lot of these guys in that fullback, in that tight end room to begin with. I think maybe Brody Tagaloa, who came to Nebraska as a defensive lineman recruit, I believe, flipped over to tight end, listed 6'3", 260. That could be a guy that kind of fits that mold. That's kind of one that just jumps off the top of the page to me. I think he probably is the best answer for if you're looking for just kind of a big, strong guy that can get in there and clear the way for the running backs. He might be an option.
Okay, stick with me here, Jacob. But if you're looking on the defensive side of the ball, it's something you've seen in football as well. You bring the defensive lineman over, 3rd and short, 3rd and goal, whatever. You bring the defensive lineman and let him get a push. Is there any defensive linemen you look at as a guy that, he could maybe make it as a fullback?
That's a good one. I know we've seen some guys do it in the past that have moved on. It would be a lot of fun just seeing a guy like Nash Hutmacher out there. I don't know that would be a great option for this. Haven't seen any of these guys really in that role. Another guy, if we're looking for a guy who has kind of some experience in that role, maybe a guy like Garrett Snodgrass, who played quarterback, he played fullback, he played whatever tight end. He played basically every single position for York High School. He's a guy that maybe if you're looking for a little bit more of a dynamic option there, as opposed to just the big space eater, Snodgrass on the defensive side of the ball could be an option.
Sue, back in the day, was lined up at fullback, and it wasn't enough for him to rip people apart on the line of scrimmage. He got a running start to do so a few times, and even caught a couple of passes, I think, from Joe Gans. Jacob Padilla's with us. He's at Memorial Stadium. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Reaction to Coach Satterfield and Coach White, their press conferences today. Jacob, before basketball, a thought, what stuck out to you about Coach White and the Nebraska defensive side of things?
Yeah, I didn't focus in too closely about kind of the details of what he said, but just kind of listening to the talk, the energy, the enthusiasm, that certainly translated. Sounded like he was really comfortable up there and excited about being here and having this opportunity. And sounds like he's a guy, I think he's, hopefully we get regular coordinator availability, because he sounds like a guy that I think will be fun to hear from moving forward.
Jacob, what did you make of what both coordinators had to say about the youth within the staffs? I mean, they're both almost the older guys in the room whenever they're both in their 40s. So, what do you make of how they responded to, Matt Rule wants a younger staff and we're kind of for it?
Yeah, Tony White objected to Mitch Sherman's classification of 46 as old for Satterfield.
So do I.
But yeah, it is certainly interesting the way that Matt Rule has assembled his staff, and he said, "This is what I want," and he went out and brought guys that fit that mold, and we've seen him. And I think Satterfield talked about it as well, just with the way that Rule has helped him throughout his career and the way he's developed him as a coach. And I think that's kind of the plan to move forward, to do it with others. And you've got those two coordinators there as kind of the big voices in the respective rooms. And Rule is going to be involved in a lot of that, some of the day-to-day stuff, and kind of helping those younger coaches kind of figure out things as they go, step into, take on some responsibilities here and there, so that they can grow and potentially get promotions down the line, get bigger jobs down the line. That's what he's done his whole career, and it looks to be the plan again here at Nebraska.
Jacob, basketball thoughts as Coach Hoiberg and Nebraska got to have tomorrow. Plenty of season left, but you have certain road games that are more winnable than others. Nebraska's been really good at home. Shake out this Minnesota-Nebraska showdown that tips at 11 tomorrow.
Yeah, that's, like you said, this is the most winnable road game left on the season, just based on what the schedule looks like and the teams in the Big Ten. Basically, everybody in the Big Ten is in the top 100 for KenPom. And then there's Minnesota way down there at 191. They're the worst offensive team in the Big Ten, and they're the worst defensive team in the Big Ten. The only team with a negative net rating there between the two sides of the ball. So it's a team that they've been kind of ravaged by injuries for a second straight year. And we've seen Jamison Battle, who had a great year last year, averaged 17 a game, shot 37% from three almost. Missed the first 4 games and hasn't totally been himself since he's come back. He's not shooting the ball well at all. Dawson Garcia transferred in from North Carolina after starting his career at Marquette. He is a Minnesota native, so kind of back at home, leading them in scoring at 14 a game, not shooting the ball particularly well from deep, but he is capable of stepping out and knocking down shots as a pick and pop threat. Those are kind of the main guys. And then Talon Cooper, who transferred from Morehead State, has one of the more kind of most interesting shot profiles I've ever seen. He is shooting like almost 56% from 3 and 38% from 2 and 51% from the free throw line. So he's shooting better from 3-point range than he is inside the arc or from the charity stripe. Not sure I've ever seen that before. So he's 6'4" point guard transfer, averaging close to 7 assists a game. So playmaker there. So those are kind of the 3 main guys that Nebraska's going to have to worry about. And the thing that's interesting is Minnesota's a bad defensive team, but the one thing they do well is they make it tough for you to score inside the arc. Their kind of 2-point percentage allowed is the strength of their defense, which also happens to be the strength of Nebraska's offense. They don't shoot the ball well from 3 or the free throw line, but they're efficient inside the arc, largely because of Derek Walker. So it's kind of a strength on strength in this matchup in terms of finding a way for Nebraska to be effective inside the arc, because that's where they score the majority of their points, and that's where Minnesota is strongest.
Jacob, defensively, it feels like Nebraska's had more success this year whenever they've been able to run their opponent off the 3-point line, force them to take some mid-range twos. Is that possible, or is that going to be a likely game plan for this Husker team on Saturday?
I'm sure that's their game plan all season long. They got the big guy waiting at the rim. They're going to close out hard, try to chase you off the line. They've had success with it in multiple games. Michigan State happened to hit almost every single one they took. I went through and counted. I think there were 10 of 15 on the mid-range looks in the first half when they built up that 22-point lead against Nebraska. It looked like a team that had studied Nebraska's defensive style and was equipped to take advantage of it. They shot the ball well in that game. I don't know that Minnesota is equipped the same way. We'll see if they can hit those tough shots. I think Nebraska is betting that they won't, and that's kind of the trade-off. That's what they're going to do all season long. They're not as good as they've been, as scrappy as they've been on defense. They're not the type of team that can take everything away from you. They just don't have the elite personnel up and down the lineup. So they have to win as a team, and they have to kind of pick their poison and hope contested mid-range shots are the ones that Fred Hoiberg is willing to live with. Michigan State happened to hit them, and that's how they won that game big, in addition to Nebraska not being able to make anything, open or otherwise, on the other end in the first half. So that'll be the game plan all season long for the most part, and it'll just be a matter of whether or not the other team can pick it apart and beat Nebraska that way.
Jacob, hang on. I want 2 minutes on the other side, if that's okay, to get your take on Creighton, UConn, and also the prep weekend. Is that all right, bud?
Sounds
Jacob's
good.
like, yes, sir. Get your subscription now. Log on, hailvarsity.com/offer to get the magazine, to get the digital. That is a wonderful combo for you. More with Jacob Padilla. He's at the 6th floor Media Center for Memorial Stadium. More with Jacob on the way.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out at Hail Varsity on a Friday, presented by Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Jacob Padilla, kind enough to give us a few more minutes. Fellas, I'm being stalked here by the Labradoodle that's at 85 pounds now, and the German Shepherd to my right. They think it's dinner time, so if I get ripped from my chair, just continue on, please, both of you, as they're eyeing me, or they just want to hear more what Jacob has to say. I think it's probably a little of both. Jacob, we talked Nebraska basketball. Give us the rundown here on Creighton. as they've been playing better. UConn, I know, stubbed their toe not long ago, but man, UConn's looking like a 1 seed as you look at their body of work. How do the Jays stack up tomorrow morning?
Jacob, you are on mute. Let's see if I can.
Jacob's on mute.
There we go.
Reset it. There we go, bud.
Thanks, Elijah. UConn was looking like the best team in the country, and then they suddenly dropped 2 in a row. And coming into this game against Creighton on Saturday, obviously looking to get off the side. They have a fearsome duo in the middle in Adama Sanogo and Donovan Klingen, a 7'2" freshman. But Creighton has Ryan Kalkbrenner back and looking like himself, and that has kind of transformed everything for the Jays. They've looked so much better. The competition level has fallen off a little bit, and they've gotten Kalkbrenner back, so that it's a different team than they were for the second half of that losing streak. But I'm looking forward. I won't be able to watch this one live because Nebraska is playing at the same time. But looking forward to seeing kind of how that big man battle turns out, because Kalkbrenner definitely got the better of Sanogo the last time they played last season. So, and I know there's some comments there about when Sanogo was kind of picked as the preseason conference player of the year. He's like, okay, we'll see what happens there. Like he felt confident in his own abilities. And so that'll be a big part of that game. Whoever gets the better of that battle in the middle, if whoever can stay out of foul trouble and continue to impact the game will give their team a big boost there. But should be a fun one on Saturday.
Jacob, more surprising in your mind, has it been Creighton's early season struggles or Nebraska's relative success, at least at home on the home floor, taking at least Purdue down to the wire, getting a big win over Creighton, getting a big win over Iowa? What's been more surprising to you?
Definitely Creighton struggles. I thought Nebraska had a chance to be something like this, just based on the players they brought in, the makeup of the roster, the things that Fred Hoiberg was saying and was highlighting as the kind of the points of emphasis for this team. I thought this is kind of what they had a chance to be, where they were a scrappy team that would be able to pull out some wins more than they did last year. And that's kind of what they've done. They've still got to show that they can make strides on offense in order to be more than that, more than the team that's just kind of annoying versus a team that actually has a chance to make some noise in the conference. But not terribly surprised. We've come to find out about the illness to Kalkbrenner, like nobody saw that coming, obviously, and that is a huge part of the team's struggles. Because you look at the start of that losing streak, it was against 2 of the best teams in the country at that point, in Arizona and Texas. So those are separate from the games that came after that with Nebraska and the teams out in the games out in Vegas where they didn't even have Kalkbrenner at all. And he was sick playing before that previously. So definitely Nebraska, I think I expected them to be something like this. The Creighton struggles were a little bit more surprised, but they're looking more recently like the team that we thought they could be.
Jacob, prep weekend, what's on the hardwood?
Yeah, I think I'm sticking around tonight to watch Scottsbluff at Waverly. I haven't seen either one of those teams. I saw a lot of the Class A Metro games last week, so I wanted to kind of step outside that, take in different kind of different class there, teams that I hadn't seen yet previously. So Scottsbluff, Waverly, both solid teams in Class B. Looking forward to seeing them tonight. And man, I still can't make heads or tails of Lincoln. The Lincoln High goes and wins the HAC title, and boys and girls. Shout out to that school. And then they immediately follow up, and the boys lose to Lincoln North Star, who just looking at the Lincoln right now, I don't know how you can say who the best team in Lincoln is. All of them are competitive. They're all pretty darn good. And so you got Southeast and Southwest tonight. That's
yes, we will.
That plays big into that. I think both those teams are struggling a bit offensively recently. Both looking to kind of get out of this rut and get back to looking like the team that we thought they could be coming into the season. And then Northeast and Southeast, I think tomorrow night is on the schedule. So that's another. And then Southwest and Lincoln High, something like that. I know there's some big matchups down in Lincoln this weekend that maybe will offer some more clarity on kind of the Lincoln hierarchy, or maybe not. Maybe it'll just be more chaos.
I think at any given quarter, you could have a wow Lincoln circled, right? A wow Lincoln team. East has looked good. Pius has bounced back. North Star started off pretty decent. Northeast is really good until Bell West kind of flipped the switch pre-break. Southeast has their moments. Absolutely, Southwest has had their moments. And then it's about the consistency part of things. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, Elijah and me and Will and Motzi and Connor, we've all had a chance to see some really fun matchups this year. But you can also stub your toe, as we've seen night in, night out. So, yeah, Jacob, we'll let you get back to it. Man, thank you so much for jumping on with us and giving us a few minutes, and we'll be looking forward to your Husker recap against Minnesota, bud.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. There he is, Jacob Padilla, with us on Hail Varsity, doing some OT with us from the stadium. Brady Oltmans next hour, and Bill Doleman in about 20 minutes. Let's hear a little bit from Coach White and his time in front of the podium today, as Coach White was able to dial up a lot of things, specifically opportunity, but let's go with fitting that defense into Big Ten play.
Well, we got a chance to play Purdue when I was at Syracuse, and now that's they were more of the passing offense right there, but still in terms of attitude-wise, they were a physical team, big team. Kind of established their will at the line of scrimmage, and for us it was just a different game. But I think nowadays, Coach Rule, one of the things he did was he was big on studies. He's a big football guy. And one of the things he sent me was the personnel groupings and stuff in the Big Ten last year, and it's surprising to see that 11 personnel was the top amongst, I think, everyone but one team. So you get that with, obviously, in the bowl games, you got a chance to see Syracuse against Minnesota. You saw Illinois versus Mississippi State. So really, it's a deal that we're going to have to account for, and really, our personnel comes into play. I gotta be able to put our guys in the best position to make plays.
That's been the theme, Elijah, right? Mm-hmm. It's our guys, it's versatility, and how do they kind of adapt and adjust to Big Ten football with the personnel they have.
And one thing I loved about that answer is that he pronounced the S in Illinois. He called it Illinois, and I love that for some reason.
We'll wind down hour one on the way with Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Good stuff from Jacob Padilla. That'll be on the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and can always catch the show on those platforms, either individualized segments or the full show. And can watch the show with Hail Varsity YouTube. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio or at Herbal Essence. Bill Doleman, 10 minutes from now. Brady Oltmans. We haven't done a steak and a beer bet for a while. And there's 8 teams vying for some postseason. We may have to do a best of forecast, my friend, around 5:40. Elijah's like, yes, let's make it happen.
Well, you know what we could do? You know what we could do for the steak and a beer? We could do a collection of, say, that's got to be an odd number, 5 games.
Best out of 5?
A best of 5. We see who gets the most picks right, best of 5. That's the winner of the steak and a beer bet. We can discuss Monday.
Yeah, done. Easy. That is great. Best thing you're going to see and hear today is the news on Damar Hamlin. His breathing tube's been removed. Was able to FaceTime with his teammates and has begun able to communicate. That was the breathing tube removed overnight per the physicians at the University of Cincinnati. The progress and his recovery has been absolutely remarkable. His neurological function remains intact. That the word from the physicians, and he's able to communicate. He's able to talk, and he's gone from gripping and holding hands with loved ones and moving his feet, to being able to write messages to loved ones, to now, from where Monday was to now Friday, FaceTime his teammates and really via Zoom just communicate and share what he's been through and what his team means to him and what the teammates, what he means to them. I mean, so it's really pretty awesome.
And from what
Coach McDermott was touching on that a little bit. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, from what I've seen and heard from people on Twitter and Facebook who are doctors, at least claim to be doctors, and from my dad who used to be an ER nurse, is we're not talking about living a normal life, and we're talking this guy could potentially come back and play football again should the recovery go well. And that's, I don't think it's something anyone was even thinking about on Monday, but now if the neurological function remains intact and if there aren't any lingering heart issues, we could be talking about a future where DeMar Hamlin could be playing football again someday. And obviously, I don't want to speculate too much, and I don't claim to be a doctor there. This is just relaying what I've been seeing and hearing, but that remains a possibility. And just the shift from 4 days ago, Monday Night Football, where he's lying on the field and we're worried if it's if he's going to live or die. Now we're talking about maybe he could be playing football again in the future. That's just remarkable. It's a testament to what prayer can do. It's a testament to what those doctors and nurses who were caring for him were able to pull off this week. It's just incredible all around, the turnover from what we were talking about Monday night and Tuesday morning to what we're talking about now.
A little bit from Sean McDermott.
Give me 1 second.
Nate Bresky is our head trainer, and so just like anything else, that whole team, our medical team, they go through their exercise, mock exercises for things like this, but we are never around to see that when they do that. And as they say, practice pays off, and it did in this case. But again, the context of it, for an assistant to find himself at that position and needing to take the action that he did and step up and take charge like he did, and there were others on the field as well.
That was Sean McDermott. Bill Doleman next hour with us on Hail Varsity.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Back with you, it's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, the pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports. The professor, Bill Doleman, is with us. I tried to get Fabio to say hi to both of you, and he kind of waved. Junior's a little camera shy. He is home. We are gearing up for the old Southwest-Southeast battle tonight at the Nest here locally in Lincoln. It's been the Bill Doleman World Tour here. Billy D, good to spend time with you. Thanks for jumping on. How are you? You're muted, cowboy.
Nebraska, after all of the travels of the past couple of weeks, to be able to be back home, it's kind of nice, although I'm coming to you from a hotel room, parts unknown.
Look at you. I was trying to see.
I'm on the lam.
You're on the Doleman's on the run. What is that behind you? What picture are we working with? You can watch the show, Hail Varsity YouTube or Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter, ESPN Lincoln Twitter. But is that a winter type setting? I don't know. It's
some kind of voodoo thing that they got going on here. That's really all I can tell you.
It's got interesting mood lighting and. Bill, I know you've been an actor in your
past. Is there a camera off to the side?
That's what I was
wondering. I'm not shooting another Furniture Row commercial, if that's what you're getting at.
No, I wasn't. I didn't know if it was going to be Furniture Row or we picked up some additional acting. There's not a guy in a beret and sunglasses saying, "Cut!"
Hey, by the way, I was watching the show yesterday. You guys haven't been sued by Mitch Sherman for that still frame photo that you put up when he's on, have you?
No.
No, I have not. We've offered Mitch to come on the StreamYard, but he's always, hammering away on the keyboard. He's working. So no, I have not. But we'll bring that up to him. Doleman wants to know if you've got any lawsuit pending against us because of what photo we use.
I got to figure if we still got the old photo we used of Doleman somewhere around here, because I think
there's the one of the mattress that I sent you where you're laying on a mattress with a blonde.
I got it going on. Yeah.
The old what was that Denver mattress you used to pimp?
What's that?
Was that Denver mattress you used to pimp?
Yeah. Front row, furniture row, and Denver mattress. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I remember the time also that I was Chris the sales guy. That was a low point in my career.
You and Will Ferrell selling mattresses with neck tattoos. I love it. Bill, we're going to play the fullback burnout game. We'll do that in a moment. But your reaction to both coordinators today as they met the media, Mr. White, science, defensive coordinator, and Marcus Satterfield, who loves him some Huddle.
Yeah, he sure does. I thought they were great. I think that they're great representatives for the kind of people that Matt Rule wants to put on his staff and bring to Nebraska. I think they both have a real good understanding of what I have said over and over and over on this show for many years, even through since the 4-year case of the flu and all of the problems. Nebraska still matters. And when you hear those guys talk about the opportunity that they've been giving, they understand that coming to Nebraska is a significant move for them. It's a great opportunity for wherever they want to go in their career, and maybe this is where they want to be for their career. A lot of folks have done fairly well in the past by staying at Nebraska for the long term. But when Matt Rule went all Blondie with Marcus Satterfield and said, "Call me," and dropped the Debbie Harry line, he wanted to come to Nebraska. He left South Carolina, a program in the SEC that's trending upward. And he left South Carolina to come to Nebraska because Nebraska still matters. Tony White saw this as a great opportunity. They were despondent at Syracuse when Tony White announced that he was leaving. So I think Nebraska fans ought to feel really good about where this program is right now in terms of the kind of character, the people, the youthful energy on that staff that Matt Rule has assembled. And based on what we've seen in recruiting and what continues to go on with recruiting and the transfer portal, everything is trending upward for Nebraska football. And I just think it goes back to the way Trev Alberts conducted the search and finding Matt Rule. I think we were all a little skeptical and curious as to what he was going to bring. But I don't see anything so far that Matt Rule has done wrong in his short tenure as Nebraska's head coach. And those two guys are indicative of it.
Bill, what do you make of the fact you mentioned the young staff? I believe you would be the oldest member of the staff had you been named a position coach. What do you make of that?
Wow.
I'm not going to argue with you. I think that's significant. And, it wasn't just the two coordinators, but Knighton and Omar and everybody that they're bringing in and Raiola. I love what they had to say about, Raiola's hire. I think it's significant because we are in a unique era of college football where, it ain't old school no more, other than bringing back the huddle, apparently, and maybe the fullback. But, I think to have a staff that can relate to today's student athlete in the NIL era, in the transfer portal era, you want to create those relationships with guys who understand you as a student athlete. And if they're somewhat generationally close together, maybe that transfer portal isn't as appealing as it might be at other places where they may not have that kind of vibe going on. And so I think it's positive. And I think Matt Rule's in his late 40s. So, I think he knows what he wants in those guys.
Bill Doleman's with us. Find him on Twitter.
Although I will say this, it is odd that the receivers coach is 3 years younger than your starting quarterback. I mean, that's pretty unique. But go ahead.
He's my age. He's my age.
Well played.
Bill,
Bill Doleman. on Twitter is where you find him. Go ahead.
How about this? Flip it around. The wide receivers coach, Bill, is 2 years older than your students.
Well, maybe he's going to be in one of my classes. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it is amazing when you see that, but I think you just have to trust Matt Rule. With is it Jody McGuire, who's at Texas Tech, and understand their relationship. And then you see why he would make the hire to bring on a 23, 24-year-old guy to be the receivers coach. He's certainly not going to break your bank. That's for sure. He's probably making minimum wage, And unfortunately, Nebraska's having an increase, I think, in that. So maybe that was enticing. Or he's got to get a paper route. I don't know. But certainly they've been very, very smart in the way they have been budgeting their assistant coaches and bringing in a young staff like that.
All right, Bill, we're going to play fullback burnout. I say a fullback, you got to follow. Elijah, you got to come with one, and we'll just go till we run out. Tom Rathman, go, Bill Doleman.
Dodie Donnell.
Andy Janovich.
I'm going to go Roger Craig.
Jeff Makovica.
Joel Makovica.
Okay.
Oh, that was easy.
Brian Schuster.
Omar Soto.
Nice.
Ironhead Hayward.
Nebraska fullback.
Just Nebraska? Oh, I'm screwed now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Okay.
We need the Jeopardy music.
Nebraska fullback. Dane Todd.
Okay, good work. Back to me, fullback burnout with Bill Doleman. I am going to go with, Mark, help me. This would be bad if I burn out here. The guy from 83.
I'm not helping.
Mark
Shalene.
Shalene. Mark Shalene. I just made
him.
it. Yeah.
Shouldn't have helped him.
Bill, you're up.
Corey Schlesinger.
Okay.
Mike McNeil.
Nice.
Wow.
Mike McNeil's a good call.
I got to go my generation. I'm out of ones from my generation.
That's
now,
absolutely fine. And Dominican Sue, he played fullback.
That
for
doesn't
a few
count.
plays.
That doesn't count.
No?
That
Okay,
shouldn't count.
Sam Schmidt.
Lance Lewis.
Ooh, good work.
That might be me being out now. I'm trying to think back. We've made it through the 90s. We've made it through the 2000s. There's not many to talk about the 2010s aside from Janovich, and I can't go back to the 80s and name fullbacks, I don't think.
Are you out?
Give me a second
Tapping
here.
out?
Give me a second here. Let's see if there's any helpful in the comments.
Brennan's giving you a little help.
Judd Davies.
Yeah.
Boom.
Billy
Thanks, Brennan.
Leggett. Billy Leggett.
Yeah, I mean that's a good one, but you're reaching. You phoned a friend.
I said Billy Leggett.
Well, all right, I'm going to put the cap on this. Frank Solich.
Ooh, good work. Paul Castle.
Wow.
Oh, I got one more.
Was Thunder Thornton fullback?
Who?
Thunder Thornton, Bill Thornton.
Yeah, we'll
He
go
is
with that.
today. He is today.
Elijah?
I got one more. The younger Legate. Is that Corey Legate?
Is there such thing as a Corey Leggett?
Yeah, he was there like the 2009 years.
Babcock's nodding his head somewhere, probably. You went Dane Todd.
If anybody's got the full list of it, it would be Mike Babcock. There's no doubt about that.
We said it earlier, but Miles, Les Miles' son that was here as part of the recruiting. Ben Miles. So that's mine. Bill Doleman, you're up.
Well, I don't think I can go much deeper than what I did. You might win it.
Well,
I think you're the big winner.
I need to make a correction. It was not Corey Legate. It was Tyler Legate. That ring a bell?
So does that disqualify me? Okay.
That may
that was fun.
That may disqualify
fun
myself.
Exercise. We went through a lot of fullbacks there.
I wish we had more than just like non-Husker fullbacks. I could name some good NFL fullbacks for you. I had Ironhead ready to go on deck. You got Mike Allstott from the Buccaneers.
Tampa Bay.
That might be as deep as it goes.
Howard Griffin.
Well, and people in the last 24 hours have been reminding of Aiden Hillis, who saved his children from drowning in the ocean, and apparently, he's still struggling in the hospital. But a true hero, Peyton Hillis from the University of Arkansas played with the Denver Broncos, who probably won't be coached by Jim Harbaugh, but nevertheless, thoughts and prayers. I hate to say that, prayers for Peyton Hillis.
Mm-hmm. Bill, you mentioned Harbaugh, and what do you make of the infractions that are on deck here for Michigan football?
I hope this goes on and on. This is such a joke on the NCAA. It's like they're trying to be relevant again, right? Mark Emmert's on his way out. They're bringing in the governor of Massachusetts, and let's remind everybody that the NCAA is still in charge of collegiate athletics. What I got a kick out of, and by the way, if there is a penalty that comes down, it will be against Harbaugh and not against the University of Michigan, based on what I read in the Detroit Free Press. But what I got a kick out of in reading this article, it said he would be in violation of severe breach of conduct, okay, and seriously undermining or threatening the integrity of collegiate sports. When you've got half the recruiting class at Texas A&M last year making more money than assistant coaches in the NIL era, and the bags of money that are now given on top of the table and not underneath it, the NCAA wants to talk about seriously undermining or threatening the integrity of collegiate sports. Where has the NCAA been over the last 10 years, 5 years? And speaking of that, is Kansas still the defending national champion in basketball, despite the fact that the FBI has been investigating that sport since 2017? Kansas won a national title under a major NCAA investigation, right? That has sent people to prison. But they're going to get Jim Harbaugh for talking to people during the COVID pandemic.
And don't forget buying burgers, buying Happy Meals.
And I hope it goes on and on and on so that the NCAA can be further exposed for the joke that it has become as an organization.
Well put, well said.
But I don't have an opinion on it.
Does he go to the NFL? Does he end up in Indy or Jacksonville?
After what he said the other day, I think had he not made that statement, and regardless of what the whole NCAA thing, I think yes. But had he not said, I'm staying at Michigan, and then this stuff with the NCAA starts to heat up, if he leaves now, he looks as bad or worse than Pete Carroll, just because there's more scrutiny on Pete Carroll leaving USC the way he did for Seattle, right?
Well,
but I think he'd have a hard time leaving now. But if it's the Broncos or Indianapolis, I don't think in Carolina, but I could see him still going, but it would look really bad if he did. I wouldn't put it past him.
It should be noted in that statement, he never said, I'm not going to be anywhere else. He said, as of right now, my plan is to be with the Michigan Wolverines in 2023. And he said, everyone from players to coaches is getting interest from other places, and I'm no exception. And for now, my plan is to be with Michigan in 2023. He really said a whole bunch of nothing with that statement.
You're right.
Troy,
You're right. Yeah, I just been going. I could. Yeah.
Troy weighs in on Twitter. Willie Miller.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good one. What a great story Willie Miller is, too, turning his life around and as a nurse in Omaha. What a great story.
Rick Burns. Was he more eye-back? Tony Davis, more eye-back?
Oh,
Doug Wilkening.
Doug Wilkening.
Yeah. And let's not forget the great late Andre Franklin.
Oh, absolutely.
Incredible ball player.
Yeah.
Bill, we'll run you down next week. Sound good, partner?
Yep. Next week will work, and we will talk about Georgia's win over TCU and Nebraska's big wins in college basketball.
Enjoy the hotel room.
Go Big Red.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Good stuff from Bill Doleman. Be sure to get that podcast downloaded with Hail Varsity Radio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Can watch the show on YouTube, the Hail Varsity channel, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter page as well at H Varsity Radio. Can catch Coffee and Cream, Damon and Andrew, weekday mornings. That streams live. And then, of course, ESPN, Lincoln, Twitter, and Facebook. Brady Oltmans, staff writer with Hail Varsity, joins us now to talk some more Nebraska. It's been a good Fullback Friday, Brady. We just played a game of Fullback Burnout with Bill Doleman, the pride of Fairbury. Elijah participated as well. It was great stuff. And we got, what would you say, about 25 fullbacks in, Elijah?
Oh, that somewhere. Let's see. We made it like 8 rotations, I think, 7 or 8 rotations. So 7 times through 21. Let's put it at 21 probably.
Your first inductee to the Brady Oltmans Fullback Hall of Fame from Nebraska is who?
Oh, Schlesinger. Corey Schlesinger. That's the first ballot anything, really.
Yes. No, today is a day that Makovica's smiling. Schlesinger's staring at all his broken face masks on his wall, for sure. And of course, Tom Rathman's just kind of probably stroking the goatee a little bit, saying, yep, fullbacks are back. But in all seriousness, Brady, takeaways from both coordinators today that got to meet the media.
Well, I think you and I kind of touched on it a little bit right afterwards. These guys are obviously knowledgeable about football and their concepts. I think we kind of knew that, or at least one would hope that if you're going to coach at a high level, you're knowledgeable about it. But they've kind of already got a vision of what they want to do. I mean, Marcus Satterfield laid out his ideas. He's got conviction for a huddle up pro style offense, but he explained it well. I mean, a way to have the quarterback be a commander of the offense. And he likes the depth in the quarterback room. He wants a little bit more depth at offensive linemen. I think that's evident in their portal activity and what the program has done in the last couple of weeks. They're already secured Ben Scott from Arizona State through the portal. They're hosting a couple of other kids and a couple of other offensive linemen from the portal this weekend. I think you put the Matt Rule stereotype of a receiver, fast guys, and develop them into something on the outside, and that could work. And then the way that I asked Satterfield, he feels good about the quarterback room. How does he feel about the running back room, knowing that they want to run the ball? And he was kind of explicit in that. And he said they haven't got a chance to feel these guys out. Tony White was kind of the same way. He's got ideas. He likes the athleticism in the secondary. He thought the team played hard and the defense played hard at times. They just needed to have a unified vision, and they could have turned out a lot better. He likes Ty Robinson. He mentioned specifically that he tried to recruit at Arizona State. So they're familiar, but again, you go back to the feeling. Keep in mind, these guys have basically been thrown at recruiting right away, so they haven't even really got to know where the guys are on the roster now, where they fit into the scheme. But without having seen them play and without having seen them workouts and all of that they need to do, I think they like where they're at and they like where the roster's at, with the exception of a couple of wants and needs that they want to get in through the portal here finally.
Now, Brady, whenever Coach Satterfield gets up there and says he wants a pro-style offense with a fullback, that almost seems to fly in the face of adding a transfer portal like Sims, who's a guy who likes to use his legs, be athletic. But then I think and I go, well, if you consider the Ravens offense pro style, they use the fullback with Ricard. They have a running quarterback with Lamar Jackson. They utilize a lot of RPOs. Do you think that the Nebraska offense in its final form could resemble something like what we see with the Baltimore Ravens right now?
I think it definitely could. One of the things I actually thought about was we saw it. Some team Alabama played. I wanted to say Tennessee, but I don't think that's right. Where they lined up in a conventional I formation, and even Nick Saban afterwards was like, "Our guys look lost. They didn't know what they wanted to do, against an I formation because they hadn't seen it." You go back to the Rose Bowl, and Penn State runs a T formation, old school T formation. They score a touchdown out of it. I think that this might be an instance where something is so old that it might be new again, and that you're really having to see teams that aren't used to scheming against this kind of offense, especially in the Big Ten, even though it is very Big Ten friendly in its conditioning and environment. This could be something that teams are really going to have to reckon with. And the fullback and a bruising lead blocker, that'll work in any system. You get a guy an offensive line that can get a push for 4 yards and a guy that can run behind them and get an extra 2 on top of that. That'll work in any style of offense and in any environment. And I think that's kind of where it comes into it. Whether they get a mobile quarterback or not, that just adds another layer to your offense and another, a little wrinkle to something you can throw in there.
Brady Oltmans with us, Hail Varsity Radio. At Brady Oltmans on Twitter. Read him with Hail Varsity. Brady, going to take a question here from the stream, and Matt weighs in. How do you feel about the D-line? Four stars coming into the program. Of course, Garrett is departing, and you also had Coach White explain that, listen, he loves the 3-3-5 because of its versatility. We've talked about that here over the few weeks since his hire, but he pretty much painted a really exciting picture, if you're a Nebraska fan, to to know that he's going to use the groceries that he believes can taste the best?
Yeah, I think, well, anytime that you're going to lose O'Shawn and Garrett to the NFL draft, and then and Colton, announced that he's just going to hang him up and focus on his life outside of football, that's going to hurt. And I think I mentioned something about the coaching staff wanting to focus on Nebraska guys, but they let a big Nebraska guy and Garrett, get away to the NFL draft. I caught a little bit of flack for that, but I think and granted that extra, year of COVID eligibility, he would have been gone anyway, so you kind of take it with a grain of salt. But they lose guys that you'd like to have. You'd like to have some game experience kind of there, but they do have some semblance of an edge rusher. They do have Ty Robinson back in. They've got a couple of guys who transferred in last year that don't really have the same amount of snaps that they've placed, but they do have big D1 experience. And the thing with the 3-3-5 that also works interesting is to the point about personnel. It's a system that if you're down in like defensive tackles, you can really scheme along with that and get guys to fit in and edge rushers to fit in well with that. I know Princewell, who's going to be playing this weekend in the All-American Bowl, and Husker fans can watch him there. He's one that the Terrence Knighton thinks very highly of and says could compete for big playing time right away. So they've got guys that they like to come in. Obviously, they're hitting the portal and getting a couple of MLB spot starters where they want here and there. But I don't know. I'm being a defensive line guy. I think that there's definitely question marks up around there. But the defense is built to scheme around that and to fit the personnel that they have and put them in the best positions.
Brady, at this point in time, are we convinced that Malachi Coleman is going to be a wide receiver? He's down competing in the All-America Bowl right now as well, and competing at the wide receiver position, but he's a guy who played that rush end spot in high school and did very, very well there. His speed and athleticism really gave high school offensive tackles a lot of problems. Is there still a chance that Malachi Coleman could move over the defensive side of the ball and play some edge rusher?
I think there is a possibility of it. I think I can't remember where, but he had mentioned afterwards that when he was talking with Matt Rule about it, they want to get him in at receiver and try him out there, but they're not throwing the book away on anything else that he does, about throwing him in at special teams, putting him in at edge, even being a third down pass rusher, with his limbs and length to get him in there. I know that was I don't know if that's something that they're going to stick to, but it is a possibility that they've thrown out there, and they're really focusing and concentrating on being a possibility, because the Matt Rule scheme is you get athletes in, you get guys that can make plays, and you develop them into different things. They're not bound by a set role or a set position. They kind of bounce around and everything. And I think Malachi fits that easily. And inherently the defense is going to have to fit that too, because they are down guys, but I mean, let's be real. This is also Nebraska. You've got no shortage of big uglies to throw up front there if you need them.
Brady Oltmans with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Brady, couple of names I want to get your take on here with the portal visitors this weekend. Walter Rouse, Stanford left tackle. Your assessment of his fit potentially and Nebraska's competition for him. Micah Mazuka, Baylor guard that's played a lot of football as well. Back around to why he went to Baylor, which was Matt Rule. Now he's looking at making the transfer into Lincoln because Coach Rule's back in college.
Yeah, Micah's an interesting one because he's got plenty of snaps. I mean, his experience is there. He developed into something pretty special, and I think that would be a big get, especially at that position. I mean, you never can have too many strong, blindside blockers and guys on the line. With Rouse, he kind of excites me a little bit because I think that he's one that could easily slip under the radar playing in Stanford's offense. I mean, Stanford football hasn't been in the last couple of years what it had been in years prior, especially under Harbaugh and the initial Shaw years. And I think it's easy for an offensive lineman to kind of fall through the cracks there, but he's got a strong body. He's obviously intelligent in the schemes that they want to do and in the blocking they want to do. He might, kind of backslide a little bit in pass protection, but he's got quick feet to get that strong initial surge on run blocking. And I think that he's a guy who has upside potential coaching through at Nebraska in this system.
Brady, the way I see it is that with Rouse, you're getting a guy who really, at this point in time, has got 1 year of eligibility. He is what he is, and you're not going to have that much time to make strides. With Mazuka, he's gotten some good play time. He's still got a ceiling that he can still reach, and that's kind of how I see these two. I'm not sure either of them are going to step in on campus and be instant day one starters the day they get here. They're going to have to work for it, but that's the difference I see between the two. Rouse the guy who is what he is, and Mazuka's a guy that still has some room for development. Yeah, well, you look at they like the guys that they've got in the high school recruiting class or conventional recruiting class, however you want to say it. And they've obviously got guys that are still there from previous years, but they get Ben Scott transfer in. They're looking at these two guys. They want bodies that can play right away. And they want to develop them, obviously, but they know that they're going to lose a couple of offensive linemen, or because of depth issues that they have dealt with, last year, they want to have enough guys to throw out there to make a competitive offensive line movement. And I think anytime that you can add depth and competition, at least from what I've heard today and even previously through Rule, anytime you can add depth and competition, it's going to make that position automatically better and inherently better. And I think that that's what they're hoping for here. And what kid doesn't want to learn from a coach who was at the NFL and a coaching staff that by and large has NFL experience? I think that's appealing for a lot of these kids.
Brady, real quick, bud, what's coming up from you with Hail Varsity?
Well, I just actually wrapped up a little big, wide scope story for the magazine for this next upcoming issue on some recruiting, looking at the coaching staff's national reach in recruiting. Other than that, probably exploring a little bit more of what we're looking at here from coordinators today and looking at a bigger scale. The All-American National Combine is today. We'll have results on that probably further tonight, and the All-American Bowl on Saturday. So there's no shortage of football to be had, my friends.
HailVarsity.com and magazine at Brady Oltmans on Twitter. Brady, we'll see you this weekend. Thanks for the time, bud.
Appreciate you guys. See ya.
See you, bud.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Winding down a Friday, it's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Big thanks to Brady Oltmans and Bill Doleman, also Jacob Padilla. We'll get to some steak and beer bet picks with the NFL weekend. A few more thoughts, though, on the coordinator press conferences today with Coach Satterfield and Coach Tony White. Let's hear a little bit here from Tony White on the why. Why Nebraska? Why leave where he's been? And why come to Lincoln?
Whenever you're talking about a situation where you're in a good place. I mean, I was in a good place with Syracuse and Coach Babers, and those young men over there played their butts off for me and the university. And when an opportunity presents itself like this, I think it comes down to a lot of factors. Me and my family talking, the relationship with Coach Rule going back to when I was a player and he was coming in to be a GA. And then, again, I said this once before, but I think first impressions are really big. And when I was in middle school and high school, that was kind of like the birth of me understanding what college football was and playing football. And that's you look at me in middle school and I graduated in 96, 97 from high school. That was Nebraska, right? That's Nebraska. You looked up and you saw Nebraska. So you add in all that stuff and then just sitting around talking about it with the family, and I thought it was something that you could not pass it up.
Tony White on why Nebraska, and you know what? That is so big, that first impression, what resonates, and he is a proud member of the 90s. When did you get out of school? When did you start following or figuring out what sports you loved and teams you liked? And Tony White's like, dude, Nebraska was it, and they were. They were Bama before Bama 25-plus years ago. You have Nebraska and where they need to go. How are they going to get there? They're going to get there with track speed. They're going to get there with physicality. They're going to get there with athletes off the edge and big dudes up front. More from Tony White here on Nebraska being special again.
You walk in and you see the national championship trophies. You see the Heisman. I mean, you walk around. You see why this place has been special and can be special. There's no doubt there, and it only adds to the fact that Coach Rule and his plan has worked. The things he believes in, the staff he's put together. I think again, it's it's very easy when you walk around here and you see and you feel it. It's something special.
More from Coach White as the defense needs to be Elijah and play a certain way.
I would say the passion. You want to see a group of guys out there that when they play, they don't look at the score. They have fun watching those young men play their butts off, and everything will take care of itself. And there's a lot of pieces that go into that, but when they take the field, you're going to know that they're playing for Nebraska. Okay, they're part of a tradition that's really unlike any other in the country. Okay, that I got to make sure I do right. All right, but that you don't have to look up at the score, that when that defense runs out there, you're going to sit up in your seats, you're going to grab your popcorn, you're going to pay attention because those boys are going to play.
It is about passion. You have that energy, and it's really an attitude, Elijah.
Well, as you were saying, the last time I remember there being a Nebraska defense like that was probably Bo Pelini circa 2010, 2011, where you didn't watch the football game to watch the offense score points. You watched the defense cause havoc. That's why you turned on Husker football games. That defense making plays in the backfield. That defense getting sacks, getting picks, and making a short field. And it's almost like being an Iowa football fan, where you're definitely not watching for the offense. Like that was what it was watching between. I mean, the Bo Pelini years 2008 to 2012 specifically, where it was, you know what, the offense taking a back seat to the defense, and I'm going to tune into this football game and see what kind of havoc the defense causes. And it seems like that's what Tony White wants to be, is like, you know what, the offense is going to be nice, the offense is going to score some points, but I don't want people to tune into a Husker football game to watch the offense. I want them to tune in and watch my defense, watch how we're going to cause havoc, how we're going to be in the backfield, and how we're going to give Big Ten teams fits with our physicality and with our speed. And whenever you hear that, I mean, obviously you got to see it on the field first, but you hear that and it piques interest, because at least for me, that's what kind of invigorated my love for Husker football way back when, following the Callahan years, was, man, look at that defense out there making plays, being physical, making sure the offense feels them.
It was really a point of don't screw this up for the offense, right? If you go back to 2009. So flexibility and the setup and system of the 3-3-5, a lot's been made of it. Here's D coordinator Tony White on the why he loves 3-3-5.
The guy who kind of really came up and really redefined the 3-3-5, Rocky Long, and he's the one who recruited me to UCLA, and then he gave me a chance at the University of New Mexico, coaching linebackers there in 2007, and then when I went to San Diego State, all those times we were running the 3-3-5. So it's something I grew up in. I played in it and then coached in it my whole time. And really, when you're studying football, the 3-3-5, it's just personnel. I mean, personnel-wise, you're lining up with 3 D linemen, 3 linebackers, and 5 DBs. But football-wise, that's all that really nickel is. Nickel is 4-2-5. I mean, we go 3-3-5, but we line up in a ton of different fronts and all that kind of stuff. So really, it's just the 3-3-5 is more personnel-based.
Flexibility also super key with who they're going to recruit, who they're going to use, and what the defense can do in the Big Ten.
The biggest thing there is I think that 3-3-5, when you start off with that base, it allows you to recruit and then really be flexible with what you have. I know that's a starting point, but then let's say you have a great year and you have a ton of defensive linemen. Well, now you went from being a 3-3-5 to maybe a 4-2-5. Maybe you're down on D linemen and you have more backers. Well, then it's a 3-3-5. So it gives you a chance to go out and recruit. And the great thing about Coach Rule is he is really, really big on recruiting the big guys up front. So we're going to recruit our tail up there and then kind of adjust the defense to the personnel that we have.
Last thought here from Coach White. It's the black shirts, right? What do you think of the black shirts? What do you know of the black shirts? And he's well aware of the responsibility as the guy that's leading the black shirts now.
Describe in detail your plans for the black shirt tradition, including what day each year you'll hand them out and how many you'll hand out.
I had a paragraph on the black shirt deal ready to go. But no. The most important thing I can do with that tradition is find out knowledge, right? I gotta talk to people who have instilled it, who have lived it, who have done it the right way. I've heard many different ways that they've done it, bringing old guys back, taking it away, doing it, waiting for a couple games, doing it in fall camp or spring. I've heard a lot of different things already. And the worst thing I can do is sit up here and say, I know I'm going to do it this way. No, that's something you don't mess around with, because, again, I think that's one of the greatest kind of traditions you have in college football, especially defensively wise. You talk the black shirts, again, like, as a kid running around, you talked about putting on a black shirt and reenacting that you were part of the defense. You know what I mean? So I want to do it right. I gotta talk to people who have done it and kind of figure out what the best way to do it, and then I'll let you know.
It's Tony White will wind down a Friday at Hail Varsity presented by Currency.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at hailvarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, basketball tonight locally here in Lincoln. And sister station KFOR, we're going to have Southwest hosting Lincoln Southeast. I'll be on the call with that, along with Hall of Fame coach Jeff Smith. That comes to you at 7:20.
Hey, don't forget Elijah Herbel back in the studio as well.
Well, I was going there. I wasn't done yet. We'll get to Steak and a Beer Bet shortly. Reminder to get buckled up. Using your seatbelt saves lives, prevents injuries only if properly worn. Buckle up. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Elijah, you can crank some music up here if we're going to pick 5 right now and see who gets to go crush a tasty steak and have a cold beer next weekend.
Let me get a notepad real quick to record all answers here so we can get back to it on Monday. Or save in big letters on it so no one throws it away.
Sure. We'll start off Chiefs, Raiders, -9. And I like the Chiefs to win. I love the Raiders to cover. Maybe that's crazy. I just think the Raiders, historically, when they've been in Vegas, which isn't too long, they played Kansas City pretty tight. But give me the Chiefs, 35-28, the win for KC, but the cover for the Raiders.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you on this one. Chiefs know they need a win to have a chance at being that 1 seed. I know the NFL is going crazy with that 1 seed rule right now. But I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one convincingly, 38-14, a big win for the Chiefs. They got something to play for this weekend, though.
Ravens, Bengals, Cincy -9. I know Baltimore's been a bit of a mess with their injury situation. 9's too many. And I like Cincinnati to win, but I like Baltimore to cover somehow. And give me the Bengals 27-21. Cincy wins and the Ravens cover.
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree with you on this one, so that's unfortunate. But I'm going to go with the under. You picked the over. I'm going to pick the under. I got the Bengals winning this one 20-13. Not much offense to go around, but the Bengals do get the job done. So maybe that's our tiebreaker, is the over and the under on that one.
What game are you circling right now? You lead first here, Elijah.
Okay, I am going to go with the Titans and the Jaguars. I think this is a fun one. I think the Jaguars are getting hot at the right time. I don't think 6.5 points is enough. I think the Jaguars with a convincing 31-21 victory over the Titans. So I'm going to take the Jaguars -6.5.
Over under is
40.
Give me the under all day. You take the over?
I'll take the over, sure.
Okay.
So
we will wind down.
We have
Detroit.
Yeah.
Detroit, Green Bay, Pack -5. Lions have put up a ton of points. What do you think? Are you going Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers? Are you going Detroit and Mr. Goff?
I got Lions outright in this one, 24-21.
I disagree vehemently. I think the 5 is a little tricky, but I think Green Bay wins. I think Detroit covers 28-24. That might be too few points. Maybe 35-31. 35-31, Green Bay wins. Detroit covers. We'll see who gets the end zone dance next Friday between you and I and a steak and a beer.
We'll see. I got them all recorded, so.
Weekend edition tomorrow morning. Check us out, ESPN Lincoln, 7 to 9. Have a great Friday. Thanks for spending time with Hail Varsity.